Buffalo Bills and defensive back coach John Butler mutually decide to part ways. There is a little bit of drama brewing here between John Butler and the Buffalo Bills. You could see this post that he retweeted 14 hours ago stating, "Appreciate what you have before it turns out what you had." And I think you got to read a little bit deeper into this. John Butler clearly throwing shade at the Bills for getting rid of him and wanting to move on from the position. And there is some speculation here as to why John Butler is upset. Bobby Babich getting the defensive coordinator nod instead of him. That could very well be the speculation here. And another tweet here by John Butler basically stating the stats that he had with his 6 years as defensive back coach with the Buffalo Bills. And we can see here that he did great. I mean, the total points, second, yards per game, first, yards per play, he was first, takeaways, second, passing yards per game, first. I mean, just really did an excellent job. And then at the very bottom, he adds, "Ask any DB I have coached." And I'm huge on the stats. Clearly, it was not the stats and the performance of our defensive backs. Some Bills fans saying like he lacked to be able to progress the talent on this team. But look at Trey White. Look at Christian Benford. Look at Taron Johnson. Look at even Damar Hamlin and all the defensive backs that we brought here to Buffalo. My point is that Sean McDermott has always found diamond in the roughs throughout his entire career, especially at the defensive back position. So I think we're bringing in top-notch talent, and you couple that with John Butler and his ability to coach these guys up. You know, Leslie Frazier also playing defensive back and his career being a great defensive back coach, losing him as well. But I really think John Butler didn't do anything wrong. It's just time that we needed some fresh talent, some fresh ideas here towards our defensive backs. Plus, you couple that with John Butler not getting promoted to defensive coordinator. But we continue to bolster this roster. We continue to bolster this entire team, and it starts with these three coaches. The Bills hire Ronald Curry, Jahmile Addae as cornerback coach to replace Butler, and Christian Taylor as a defensive assistant. Now, some notes to take on Ronald Curry, the new passing coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. We can clearly see that he has experience playing with Joe Brady all the way back in New Orleans for 2 seasons between 2017 and 2018. He definitely has spent time in the NFL. He spent 8 total seasons with the Saints working as an offensive assistant, working as a wide receiver coach, a quarterback coach, and also a passing game coordinator, which the same role is going to be here in Buffalo. But during that time in New Orleans with Joe Brady was the offensive assistant under Sean Payton for both seasons. Curry was an offensive assistant for 1 season in 2017 and the wide receiver coach in 2018. Curry was known to develop talent on the Saints, most notably Michael Thomas, who set the NFL record for the most catches in a single season at 149. Let's not forget, Deontay Hardy was a part of this New Orleans Saints team during that same time where Curry was a quarterback coach, including the quarterbacks he coached, Jameson Winston, Andy Dalton, Taysom Hill, and also Derek Carr last season. That was the year Deontay Hardy actually made it to the Pro Bowl playing with Jameson Winston. You know, I think Josh Allen's clearly a better quarterback than Jameson Winston, and that's why I was so intrigued by Deontay Hardy when we first brought him here. Knowing that Joe Brady and Curry have worked with Hardy in the past, I think they're going to know exactly what worked in New Orleans, potentially bring that to the Buffalo Bills in 2024. In 2022, Curry had Andy Dalton have the highest completion percentage of his career at 66.7. So there are a lot of things that Curry knows that could benefit the Buffalo Bills offense. Curry was a former quarterback in college, having almost 5,000 passing yards, and he actually went on to be drafted by the Raiders in the 2022 draft and then transitioned to the wide receiver position. Jahmile Addae, the new quarterback coach for the Buffalo Bills. We've been talking about it here with Joe Brady being the quarterback coach last year and being promoted since Ken Dorsey got fired. No one was really there to fill that role. I was anticipating DJ Mangus, who filled in for the the Bills late in the year to help out with Bills Mafia, but it is Jahmile Addae that's going to be coming here, a fresh face to Bills Mafia to help out our franchise quarterback, Josh Allen. Addae's background actually comes on the defensive side of the ball, actually spending the last 2 seasons as a secondary coach for the University of Miami. Addae played defensive back at West Virginia and was named to the All-Big East team twice. Spent a lot of time in college at both West Virginia and Michigan before spending 3 seasons at the University of Cincinnati as the director of player development and as a running backs coach. He spent the following 5 seasons at the University of Arizona as an analyst and defensive back coach. In 2018, he was the University of Minnesota's defensive back coach before returning back to West Virginia as a defensive secondary coach, followed by a stint as the co-defensive coordinator, cornerbacks coach. In 2021, he ended up winning the national championship with the University of Georgia as the defensive back coach before heading to Miami in 2022. So his wealth of knowledge on the defense and the secondary and defensive backs, knowing what is hard to defend, he's going to bring a lot of knowledge to Josh Allen and understand ultimately what defenses are trying to do to him in this offense. Just like I was saying with Bill Belichick a few weeks ago, Bill Belichick is brilliant on the defensive side of the ball, but what that ultimately does is help him on offense because he ultimately knows what defenses are trying to do and what they struggle at defending. Christian Taylor is going to be spending time as a defensive quality control coach. He played quarterback for William and Mary, going back to the William and Mary coaching tree with Sean McDermott and Joe Brady. He began his coaching career at William and Mary as a tight end coach in 2008 and also served as the quarterback coach in 2009. He was an offensive assistant for the San Diego State and Michigan before being hired as a running back coach and recruiting coordinator for the University of San Diego. He also served 1 year as offensive coordinator for Illinois Wesleyan Church before returning to USD as the wide receiver coach and eventually offensive coordinator. Taylor spent the last 4 seasons as the offensive coordinator and running back coach at William and Mary. But uniquely here, once again, Christian Taylor spending his career on the offensive side of the ball, but being a defensive quality coach for the Buffalo Bills. I love this philosophy, what the Bills are trying to do here, bringing in guys that have a wealth of knowledge on the opposite side of the football and what they're ultimately going to present for this team. I know starting off with John Butler and the Bills mutually deciding to part ways is going to fuel speculation in between Sean McDermott and his relationship between the coaches, but this is one player. Obviously, he's going to have a sour taste in his mouth, not being fired, but obviously us turning the page and moving on. It's fresh for John Butler. I mean, do you expect him to be happy in that situation? And the other point I want to make too is look at all the coaches that have stayed around during the entire Sean McDermott era. You know, obviously Eric Washington parting ways, Ken Dorsey getting rid of Ken Dorsey, Brian Dable, all these things. But at the end of the day, people trust Sean McDermott. This organization is 110% behind Sean McDermott, and he always does and tries to do what is best for this city and for this franchise. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about bringing in these coaches that have more experience on the opposite side of the football than what they're going to be coaching for the Buffalo Bills? How much of an upgrade do you think this will be? Do you think it was a good idea to part ways with John Butler, who's been here for the past 6 seasons, who had such a high statistics in the NFL, coaching up these defensive backs? I think it was a good idea. Bring in some fresh minds, some fresh ideas. Teams are not going to know what we're ultimately going to be working on. But I appreciate you guys all so much. If you want to support me and my efforts for this channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe, check the link in the description for the Buffalo Chicken Wing merch. Also, how I landed my full-time job. I wouldn't promote anything other than this if I didn't believe in it. But Course Careers, they have free introduction courses based on tech sales, on software development. You could literally land a $70,000+ year job with Course Careers. The final exam is extremely strict. Employers see your final exam. They help you build a resume. Literally, after I graduated, I had 4 different employers reach out to me immediately, and that's how I landed my full-time job. So I want to really help you guys. Make sure you check it out. The link in the description. Just try the free introduction course. If you guys are debating a new career right now, it's definitely worth it. But I appreciate you all so much. Hit like, subscribe, and go Bills.